the record, Commissioner Flowers has joined the meeting.
And Miss Linda too.
And Mr. Thunder is here as well.
Okay, let's pray. Lord, we thank you that we can be here today. We ask you to guide us and direct us. Let us work together to bring about the best results for our lives.
The destination is on your right. The destination is on your right.
Is somebody saying something?
We have some directions on the phone here. All set? We're going to continue.
Pardon the interruption. Bless us as we continue to make decisions for the betterment of our courts, waterways, and beaches. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Item on the agenda is swearing in Commissioner Carter. Perfect timing. Clay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Could you please raise your right hand? Oh, you may stand and sit at your convenience. It's whatever's comfortable for you. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm.
I do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support, protect, and defend.
That I will support, protect, and defend.
The Constitution and government of the United States.
The Constitution and government of the United States.
And of the state of Florida.
And of the state of Florida.
That I am duly qualified.
That I am duly qualified.
To hold office under the Constitution.
To hold office under the Constitution.
Of the state.
Of the state.
And that I will well.
And that I will well.
And faithfully perform the duties.
And faithfully perform the duties.
Of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District.
Of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District.
Commission. On which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
On which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rivers.
Here.
Commissioner Flowers.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Bender.
Here.
Commissioner Kirker.
Here.
Next item is adoption and approval of agenda. Do any commissioners have any modifications they'd like to make to the agenda as written?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment. Any members of the public care to make a comment before we go on here? No takers. Government representative comments. There's a number of you here. Who will go first? Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Carl Blow. I'm the authority on the navigation district. First off, I want to congratulate Commissioner Kirker for being selected for the governor. And I look forward to working with you. Commissioners, I know you got a big agenda, so I just am here to sort of update you on where we are with 5 grants for this season. We've got a pretty good response, actually an excellent response. Basically, I have 2 grants coming in from the county. The first one is for the Riverdale Boat Ramp, which is outside your district, but it's over on the river. It's a very popular ramp. Basically, Find helped the county purchase a piece of property across the street from the ramp for additional parking. And they're now coming to us for funding to actually improve the parking area. But that grant's the total cost is $500,000. It's a 50% match, so they're coming in with a $50,000 grant request. The second grant application coming from the county is for the Doug Crane Boat Ramp, and that one is for dredging. Of course, you guys, that's within your district. That's a very popular boat ramp, it's a very important ramp, but it needs periodic dredging. They estimate they need to dredge about 2,800 cubic yards. The there is, their initial cost estimates are really, really high. They're coming in for a $500,000 grant, 50% match would be they're coming, the total cost is $500,000, so they're coming in with a $250,000 grant request. My concern there is if that costs that much money, you're looking at $178 per cubic yard, which is an incredible amount of money.
That's really high.
Yeah, really high compared to what the city's looking at for Salt Run. So those are the two grant requests coming in from St. Johns County. The city of St. Augustine has actually 3 grant requests coming in. The first one is for the Eddie Vickers Park, which is, if you're not familiar with that, that's that park at the end of Riberia Street. Lake Maria Sanchez, there's actually a Lake Maria Sanchez Creek that feeds out from the lake and a control structure into the Intercoastal Waterway. And next to the wastewater treatment plant is, the city has obviously property there. They're planning a kayak paddleboard launch. And Fine has already helped the city with design and permitting funding. They're now coming in with a grant for $250,000 to actually build the dock and the floating dock for the kayak paddleboard launch. But that's a very popular project there, especially in Lincolnville. And actually, the local match for that is coming from the Lincolnville CRA, which is, you guys are probably familiar with Community Redevelopment Act, I guess.
What's the cost on that?
Well, they're saying $500,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, talking about Eddie Vickers?
Yeah,
Eddie Vickers?
yeah, that dock and that floating dock.
For the kayak launch?
Yeah, that's what they're looking at, a concrete floating dock.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, and so what was the dredge at the, Doug Crane, I thought that was.
Okay, Doug Crane, they're looking at a total cost of $500,000
It too, okay.
to dredge 2,800 cubic yards. So the match on both of those was fine, would be 50%, so 250 from fine, 250 from both of them. Mr. Nogus is here. If you're wondering where the money's coming, the match money from the county is coming from, it's coming from somewhere in that organization out there at the county. But actually, I think where it comes from is the county did something very, very smart a number of years ago, and help me if I misspeak here, Damon, but the county actually they have a line item budget for boat ramp maintenance now. And prior to that, it was kind of like if there was an emergency, they run around trying to find funding to cover it. So there's pretty much, I hate to say use the word dedicated, but there's a budget line item now in the county budget for boat ramp maintenance and development, which is really great. So the next grant application we have is one you're very familiar with. It's the Salt Run dredging. This is one of those rare grants at Fine where it's actually only a 25% local match. So the city is coming in for a $300,000 grant, and you guys have already committed to put up $100,000 for a total of $400,000. And if I can speak on it, hopefully the city will.
Are they gonna be bucket dredging that again?
Yeah, that's a mechanical.
That is a real mess, that's why we have no oysters, you know, every time we just get over it, like we just kind of started getting over the dredging at the Balonne boat ramp, because that was bucket dredge, oh, what a killer that was to the environment, if they would just use a cutter head suction dredge, we wouldn't have to go several seasons of ugly water and killing our oysters are just now coming back.
The challenge that is there's no way with a hydraulic dredge, you need to have a facility.
Yeah, right, we talked about that before.
But there's no real estate available to build.
Well, they told us when they did the Bolano, they were putting it in a hopper and taking it to Jackson.
Well, that is the plan for Salt Run, and Spring.
But they didn't do that. They took it to the biomass over here. They never
Well, I'm
did
not
that.
I'm not familiar with that particular.
We paid $400,000 for that, and we were told they were taking that off, but it was a real mess, Carl. It was a mess, and we're about to do it again, in Salt Run. I really wish we would
Well,
consider.
what happens in Salt Run is Branch Diversified has a facility in Jacksonville on the St. Johns River there, across from Bun Island. And what they do is they bring down a large hopper dredge, stage it on those mooring dolphins. They have a smaller barge that they use a Traco, or extended Traco, to do the mechanical dredging. They offload it into the bigger barge, the barge it up to Jacksonville.
I'm familiar if they did that. Like I said, that was part of the contract, but they didn't do it last time. I followed the truck to the local, wait a minute, please let me finish, because this is important. It's an environmental issue, okay? I watched them dredge. I know 50 to 80%, when you mechanically dredge with a bucket, 50 to 80% of that slurry, which as you know is dangerous, which is why we're supposed to be taking it ashore, goes right back into our water. I have watched it kill Hospital Creek when we dredged Bolano boat ramp with that way. Now, I've talked to several of the dredgers around here, and they'd be glad to do it the right way. If we could do a comprehensive dredging plan.
All these projects are permitted and monitored.
So we're not gonna talk about the environmental issue then?
There are no environmental issues that.
Well, there are, but nobody's paying attention to the fact that that is killing our shoreline.
Okay.
Well, I'm just.
Yes, you got a
Well,
lot of work to do, I'm just gonna run it, because
I just, Carl, I'm making my comments during, this is the proper time to make them when you're bringing it up, that's all.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Flowers. But as far as, Bolano, that wasn't a city project, that was a county project, and I'm not familiar with it.
We gave a bunch of money to Port did for that project twice. They came back and then
he's
they.
telling you that he doesn't have any familiarity with it, so why would
I'm
we?
sorry, I was talking to you during the proper time, are you telling me to hush?
Yeah, I am telling you.
Okay, I have questions and comments to make about these
And
projects.
he's telling you that that project has no relevance to what he's talking about right now.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, the last one that's coming from the city is, the city is pursuing a, $500,000 grant for a new fireboat, okay, from the federal government. And, that's actually a 75%, 25% project, so they're coming to find for $125,000, as their local match for this, port security, grant. So those are the grants that we have, that are in the works. The deadline for those to be submitted is March the 28th, and pretty much I think they're all in, but maybe the fire boat. Now, real quick, the amount of potential grant funding for St. Johns County, which includes the city, is for fine, coming from fine, is based on a formula, and a percentage basically of the gross tax revenue that we collect from St. Johns County. And that number for this year is probably $1.1 million. And so if these grants score high and above the line based on whatever we budget for this grant program, there's a good chance they'll get funded. Now, the bad news is the last federal budget, or the most current federal budget, had some pretty good funding in it for maintenance dredging on the intercoastal waterway on the east coast of Florida. When they adopted the continued resolution, that money poof went away. So as we proceed through our budgeting process, find, or basically the taxpayers in our district may have to pick up some of the financial responsibility that potentially was in that federal budget. So that could have a negative impact on the amount of money that we have available for our grant program. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. Now, I can tell you, all these grant applications are good applications, and they should score pretty well. But as you guys know, it's a competitive process with the other 11 counties in the district. So we'll just see how it plays out. But that's all I have, unless you have any.
Carl, what's the total amount of grants that you're asking for from the county?
I'm not asking for anything.
Okay, that's $1 million.
Well, the total amount of the grants works out to be about what is probably potentially available from, based on the tax revenue coming out of St. Johns County. Now, it depends on our budget. We, just like you guys, when you do your budget, we'll do our budget, and we'll allocate a certain amount of money to this grant program. It's been running like, I think, $15–16 million. But as I said, there's an issue that we may not get federal dollars that we planned on for actual dredging of the intercoastal, which would cause us to have to reduce the amount of funding available for the grant program. Basically, it boils down like this: we're the quote local sponsor for the intercoastal waterway on the east coast of Florida with the Corps of Engineers, just like you guys are the local sponsor for the inlet, that federal channel in the inlet. Our primary goal is to keep that intercoastal waterway open and navigable and safe, and that's what your primary goal is for the inlet. So that's where we stand.
Carl, I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the Eddie Vickers part for the kayak launch, we had given a grant, as you know, to the city years ago, and then that was pulled over to
Right.
repair the marina. Out of that money, we did do a $25,000 feasibility study to Taylor Engineering right off the bat. Will that be able to be reused since it's been so many years? Will they apply that money that was put towards that? Or, or?
That's a good question. What I can tell you, what I know is that the permitting of that kayak paddleboard launch was very challenging. So I'm not sure where the status is of that funding. They actually they had a DEP permit initially. When they got the DEP permit, they were told by the Corps that they didn't need a Corps permit. They needed to renew the DEP permit several years later, and at that time, the Corps changed their mind and said, no, you need a Corps permit as well. So there was a lot of time and work spent getting the necessary permits. So I don't know how that funding worked out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, any other government representative comments?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Congratulations, Commissioner. Corey Sacker with the City of St. Augustine. Wanted to mention, Carl, you're hosting the Find District meeting here this month, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yep, so we can go out and support Carl and the Find Commissioners. They'll be here on the last Friday this month. Additionally, the City of St. Augustine has just submitted a application to Find for the salt run for this region for dredging. And then we've also submitted an application for derelict vessel removal between City of St. Augustine and St. Johns County. We have 5 vessels identified, and we have a new contractor on board, and we're ready to issue, once they get their insurance their insurance taken care of, issue the purchase orders and have them go out and remove those vessels. And then we'll come to the port because you guys have some money already identified to remove those vessels. So those are the projects we're working on here currently in the city.
Did the city have to redo the feasibility study for the kayak launch?
So I think there might be a question when, and this is before I come on board.
Right.
With the city, but the city had a phase one grant application through the Inland Navigation District, and that was for design and engineering. And then in order to get the phase two funding through FIND, you had to complete the phase one design and engineering. But at that time, the hurricane came, and then the city didn't push forward with construction. So we took those plans, we put them on the shelf. Now, Miss Jamie Perkins and the CRA group, they went ahead and pulled those back out, dusted them off last year, went to FIND and got the grant there. And since then, I believe they approved the engineering on that dock, which raised the cost a little bit, which is why they go back for this application. But they did dust off that old phase one, the plans that we had. And of course, they had to be upgraded to, to today's code. From, I want to say it was either 2016 or 2017, but they're moving forward with that project, and it's like everyone notices, it's very popular.
One question.
Yes, sir.
With the work that the city's doing with the marina downtown, going for that application, there's no dredging anticipated right now, correct?
At the city marina, no, we're not. In the future, there may be, because we haven't done any maintenance dredging in quite a while, and we have a harbor master here, and that could be a potential project in the future, but I don't think it's anywhere in the immediate future for us in the city.
Hey, just real quick, hasn't the city been waiting for a long time to do a full $3 million rebuild on the marina? And that's correct. When is that going to occur?
Say again?
Wasn't the city planning to do a full rebuild on the marina?
No, we have a couple of CIP projects that we're trying to work through right now, but no, we're not really looking on the full rebuild. We're working on some repairs. Currently we have an open grant application with the Port Waterway Beach District and with the Inland Navigation District. As we're working through the FEMA public assistance process on a Category G project for the marina, but you know how slow FEMA is, and of course the port and FIND have been fantastic, partners in helping us keep it open, because our previous grant really killed our reserves. So you guys we've invoiced you, and I believe I've submitted all of the invoices, the receipts, the canceled checks, and reimbursement requests to the port. And we're also working through one with FIND right now to bridge that gap. And one of the major things is that when the FEMA money does come through, there is, there's the rules in the grant for the public assistance is duplication of benefits. So of course, the city does their due diligence, and we go back and look at any of that overlap, and then we refund. And we've refunded the Florida Inland Navigation District on several projects before, that you guys have been able to, as they flow us through until the FIND stuff goes through, or FEMA stuff goes through. But generally, that takes about 2 years. So we're at the beginning of that process, unfortunately.
Got it. Thank you. Any other government representatives?
Can I just clarify something?
Of course. And getting any work out of there.
Yeah. Before we define. I just want to clarify that, I talked about the amount of money available for grants, and it's based on formula and all that. The grant that you referred to, that you're working with FEMA, that's not part of this grant program I was talking about. We had a separate line item grant for hurricane disaster, and that's where that money came from. And Corey's absolutely right, is the city has reimbursed this money over the years when they finally work through the FEMA process. The other issue is on derelict boats. That's a separate line item. It's not part of that, 1.1 million I'm talking about. So I just want to clarify that. When they talk about derelict boats and fines coming out of a different pocket, same thing with hurricane damage.
Yeah, thank you all. Any other government representatives? Nothing. That brings us to the Secretary Treasurer's report, please.
And I apologize, I thought I had sent these out, but I guess I did not. So, let's see. the city police law enforcement overtime of $10,000, we've spent $557. Now, I think we also budgeted $10,000 for the fire department, we've spent $665. The sheriff's department overtime, we've spent $8,755 of the $25,000 budgeted. The derelict boats, of the $25,000 budgeted, we've spent $5,656. Nothing for debris removal. And the $275,000 for the unspecified marine projects, you can see below where that total comes from. In the Florida State Board of Administration, there was $27,327. In the operating account, we have $725,700. In the money market account, in the money market account, the total of those two is what's in the money market account, but we kept $500,000 out for reserve, and we have $1,527,000. In the taxes, we budgeted $930,766 for taxes. We received, to date, we just got another $176,000, $824,493. So we're just shy of $106,000 of what's owed to us.
Any questions? Oh, and for Commissioner's purpose of education, our fiscal year begins October 1, right?
October 1st.
This is a year-to-date.
This is, yes, October 1 to year.
Yes.
I have a question, please. Two things. Number one, I didn't see a check for my bond. And number two, we still have any taxes being held back by the Department
No,
of Revenue?
we have no taxes being held. We never did.
What is the status? Because when I spoke with the Department of Revenue, we are still out of compliance.
Well,
Dennis Cook with the Department of Revenue, and apparently there was an investigation going on. But that was my last speaking with them, just a couple. It was just that.
they told me the only thing that's being held back is the sales tax, which we don't collect.
We don't collect that.
No.
But what is their determination? He told me we were still out of compliance because we raised taxes by only 2 out of 3, when it has to be 3 out of 5.
Well, I have to get with them then and ask them what they want us.
Because when I was speaking to the Department of Revenue, they're sending letters.
I haven't seen a letter.
Sending letters to them, and I've asked for a copy of that February 10th letter from Mr. Meade. Do you have that?
I will have to look back and see what I've got.
And just for the audio record, this is Mr. Meade. The statement regarding the letter I sent is not accurate or true.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What you said?
I said the statement regarding me sending a letter is neither accurate nor true.
Okay, that's according to Mr. Dennis Cook at the Department of Revenue.
He said that our attorney of record had sent him a letter.
Right, that's what he said. Yes, and I asked for a copy of it, and I have it.
Did Mr. Cook happen to put that in writing?
I've not gotten the copy, I've asked for it. That's just according to Mr. Dennis Cook.
Did he put that statement in writing that
I
Clyde
will
sent him
check
a
with that,
letter?
yes.
Could you forward that statement to me, please?
Yeah, could you forward that written statement that Mr. Cook made to all of us so that we can
Yes,
see
I
that?
believe I've already done that. If you'll check for that, please.
I don't,
Check.
I'll check, but I don't think you sent me a copy of that.
I'll do it while I'm sitting here, but nonetheless, Mr. Dennis Cook at the Department of Revenue told me that we are still out of compliance.
Yes, we've already discussed this.
We already
several times.
did.
We are technically out of compliance, but there is no penalty for it, and so we are going to move forward.
Right. He also mentioned that we were supposed to advertise our being out of compliance. Have we done that?
No, we don't have to advertise that we're out of compliance. We have to advertise if we're going to go back and do another special meeting.
I'm sorry, ma'am. You guys really need to speak with Mr. Dennis Cook. I assume that he was in touch with our attorney, Department of Revenue. I will forward that to you.
I will call him.
Let me finish, because he said there was an active investigation. Let me finish.
No, we already
I'm just gonna
have,
finish.
this is an
I'm just gonna
agenda
finish.
item under old
There's an
business.
active
We'll finish this
investigation.
discussion
Okay.
under old
We'll
business.
leave it there then. Can you tell me when I'm gonna get my bond money?
I've never gotten a copy of your
I
bond.
sent you a receipt.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I have not received.
I sent it to you at least 3 times.
I could show you the emails where there's. I will show you my emails that I received from you, and not one is a copy of the bond.
You, and I sent it to the St. Augustine, at least the St. Augustine board.
I have not received it. Honestly, I have not gotten it.
The last meeting you said, I want to get that to you, I resent it.
Right, but you never sent me a copy of it. No, but I didn't get it.
Are you sure you don't have it blocked?
No, I get all your emails, Sandy.
I'm just telling you, I have sent this since the first part of January.
I have not gotten a copy. I've gotten all your emails. I have not gotten a copy of that.
You can resolve it after this meeting.
Okay.
No, my question is for the board, when will I get my money? Do you?
Well, then you need to ask the board.
When do I get my money?
The answer is consistently given when she receives a receipt.
Okay, and I told you, now I told them that the whole board, because we've had so many problems, we now have a lawsuit on us, I have sent this email 3 times.
I never got your bond
Yeah,
receipt.
the next question is, if I send it to you now, will it take yet another month?
Yeah, because I have to get 2 signatures until I,
Please let me finish, I'm just having, I'm asking secretary a question. Because I've emailed it 3 times, every time she asked.
It's not going through. I'm going to advance the agenda. The next item is
But I have one more question.
Go right ahead.
I have one more question, I wasn't finished.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Well, I wasn't finished with my questions for the secretary, and I do have the right to finish asking her. Okay, yes, I do. This is what I get,
I'm
this
going
is
to
what I'm
advance
asking.
the agenda. The next agenda item is
I have a
approval of
question for
minutes.
the secretary regarding the public service bonds that we do or
You
do
can
not
ask
have.
her during commissioner.
No,
comments.
I've asked and asked by
Commissioner
email.
Flowers, you are
I get
out of
no answer.
order.
Out of order. Approval of minutes, February 18th,
I have asked
2025,
for it.
regular meeting. Are there any modifications to the minutes as written?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Old business, first up, Taylor Engineering review of large project funding. I believe Commissioner Bender, this is your agenda item, is that right?
Yes, we discussed this last month. The minutes reflect this part of the discussion on that. And I would leave it that it's more on a case-by-case basis where this type of engineering work is necessary that may need additional second eyes to look at it. And I would look at guidance coming from our engineering firm that we pay to indicate to us where they think some of those second eyes would need. And I would leave it that way.
Okay.
On a case-by-case basis.
That sounds like a reasonable procedure. So no motion needed on this. I think we'll just, okay, great. Good. Any other discussion on that item? Hearing nothing. The next item on old business is follow-up discussion, RE Department of Revenue compliance letter. Mr. Meek has indicated that no such letter exists. I believe Commissioner Flowers is looking for written evidence that someone at the Department of Revenue told her that Mr. Meek sent a letter.
Dennis Cook.
Okay.
Dennis.Cook from Revenue.com.
and I will look for a letter from the Department of Revenue.
I'll give it to you. I've been working a lot. So I've got a lot of emails, but I'm definitely sending it to you. Like I said, you're welcome to call me. He's spoken to me twice, and he's given me very different information than we're being delivered by our attorney.
So, if Mr. Meek says there's no letter, Commissioner Flowers is still looking for evidence that Mr. Cook said
I'm
there's
not
a
looking for
letter.
that right now. I'm looking for the receipt.
Okay, so,
But I will get that for you, and you're welcome to speak with Dennis.
so do you have anything else on this agenda item then?
No, I don't have no.
I would like to say something
Please do.
without interruption, please. I spoke to Herbie Wiles regarding the bond issue. Now, because there is pretty much encompasses all the commissioners, but they don't have an individual one. So if I wanted to get an individual one for each commissioner, which we can do, it would be, but they're covered under the blanket.
The general obligation.
But,
Right.
if we want to do the individual bond, it would be approximately, now I don't know what Sandy's was, but it was approximately around $400 per commissioner, and they're good for 5 years. And if one leaves, if one is not there for the full 5 years, I think they retroactive, credit the insurance.
They have not gotten their bonds within 60 days of the election. They're already serving illegally.
We've been over this so many times.
The charter,
Please
we
let us finish.
have, and we'll have to do it in court, I guess, because y'all aren't gonna follow the charter, which is law. As you know.
Please continue. Do you have anything else, Liz?
No, so what I'm saying is, do you want me to go ahead, get they are covered. We're not doing anything illegal. They're covered. according to the insurance company, we're fine. However, if you want me to do the individual bonds, I will get a estimate, or tell me how much per each commissioner and the total, and when, and for the length of time, and the start date, the end date.
This is what we have adequate.
Well, they told me what they have is sufficient, but I'm in a tough spot here. So I'm just trying to give you the information I received.
Okay.
And make it clear, they are serving illegally if they did not get their bonds, and the charter requires that they shall vacate the seat. And just so you know, I emailed that to you on January the 21st, February the 11th, and February the 18th. And the last one says, here is the bond receipt I sent on February 11th.
There was nothing there.
And it went to everybody.
I did not get it. If it went to everybody, I did.
Know about the receipt. I mean, I can just show you, it's genuine.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I believe what was earlier discussed was that a physical copy being brought to the next commission meeting would eliminate this back and forth issue regarding email. Beyond that, another potentially important point to keep in mind is that the charter provision that Commissioner Flowers keeps referring to does not indicate that the district shall reimburse a commissioner for getting a bond. It specifically states that the premiums shall be paid from funds of the district. So to the extent any individual commissioner wishes to argue a hyper-technical reading of that section of the charter, Commissioner Flowers already got done.
Don't hurt me, okay?
Commissioner Flowers.
That hurt.
Commissioner Flowers. To the extent any commissioner wishes to urge a hyper-technical reading of the charter, any commissioner that purchased a bond on their own and is getting reimbursement from the district would not be in compliance with this charter.
And how about people who have not vacated their seat? When the words are shall vacate your seat, which is an obligatory statement. Mr. Attorney, what is your legal opinion on these commissioners serving when they knew they were supposed to get this bond? You apparently didn't remind them of the bond, and the charter says you shall vacate your seat. What is your legal opinion on that, sir?
My opinion continues to be bring the physical copy of whatever you claim to have purchased to the next
We're not talking
meeting.
about the
And
receipt.
Commissioner Flowers, you asked a question. I'm
No,
going to
I
answer
didn't
it without
ask a question.
interruption.
I know.
Commissioner Flowers, no. No. You do not have the floor.
You don't have it either.
Commissioner Flowers. My opinion is that the physical, whatever it is, should be brought to the next meeting. Commissioner Flowers, again, stop interrupting. The commission as a whole can then decide whether or not it complies with the charter, which provision of the charter wishes to be followed, and how the commission as a whole wishes to proceed from that point.
My question is, what is your legal opinion as the court attorney on the charter where it says if the commissioners do not go and get their public service bond within 60 days of the election, they shall vacate their seat? That was the question, not about the receipt.
My opinion remains as it has previously been stated, Commissioner Flowers.
What is that opinion?
As previously stated.
What is that opinion where it says they shall vacate their seat? I want
Commissioner
you to
Flowers,
answer
it is my opinion that no commissioner present here is serving inappropriately or illegally in any way.
So you're not, where the charter says you shall get your purpose.
Commissioner Flowers, if you don't like my answer, that is different from me
Okay,
answering the
I think you
question.
answered my
I
question.
have.
You're not going to answer it.
Excellent.
I have.
New business, funding request, Pastor Cartney.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Pat Harvey with the City of St. Augustine Marine Unit. The funding request that you have in front of you needs to be amended, be much cheaper, by the way. So, that always helps. I'm going to give you guys a copy, everybody a copy of the change.
This is amended.
Uh,
I can send it.
Yeah, you can email. Yeah.
The changes on this are very simple. I know you have a really stiff agenda today. The vest on the original and the helmet and are being purchased through other means. Northeast Florida HIDA is gonna buy the vest for our new officer, because it's closely related with law enforcement. And the only thing I'm asking for today would be, the new total, which is on that last page, which is $7,068, which is for the night vision for the new officer that we have, which will allow him within the district to work the nights, any night operations that we have or night patrol. I do have a pair of those myself that was transitioned down from the sheriff's office, which we've been able to keep in service. All of the things that we purchased would be going from officer to officer, and any kind of maintenance or upkeep would be done out of the budget.
Right, so this, is fungible between offices. Can you just remind us what the original ask was?
Yeah, the original ask was just over $11,000, and I don't have that exact number in front of me. I know some of y'all have that. I don't have that exact number, but it was just over 11,000.
Good.
Thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions or discussion on this ask? You've already seen this application. This is just a pared down version of it, just asking for night vision goggles at this point.
Do we need to take any action?
We need to, I'll need a motion in a second to approve this application, if commissioners are in favor of the application.
I'll move to approve the application.
Sure. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, sir. Just for clarification, it was $10,422.16 was the original.
Right. Just shy of 11 grand. Got it.
That's, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item of business, Summer Haven projects. Mr. Douglas, did they get you set up with
Yes, sir.
presentation? All right.
My name is David Douglas. I'm with the St. Johns County Coastal Management Division. We are separate from the beach maintenance activities within the Parks and Recreation Department. Boat ramps, grants, those types of things, I'm not involved with at all. We do coordinate with them on areas that overlap. But we basically do beach renourishment type activities, construction on the beach, typically sand placement. We've done seawall and those type of repairs as well. So we have been very busy recovering from the storms as others. There was a request that I touch upon the county's beach programs and then talk a little bit more about Summer Haven. I have a fairly extensive update on Summer Haven that I'm going to go through very quickly. But please slow me down if you have any questions. So in general, we have some active projects that we have just completed in Ponte Vedra Beach, north of Guana. We have done some work south of Ponte Vedra Beach, in that area north of Serenata. Both of those projects were damaged during the storms, and the county is working with FEMA on some project worksheets to see if it's a possibility to do a Category G project to replace the sand, the qualifying sand. As we know, that takes a long time. We should have better information, possibly some kind of construction, early 2026. There's another project underway in a planning sense in Corpus Point. As we've seen, there's a great deal of erosion that comes and goes. Looks great right now, but there have been many times that it hasn't. Working with the Army Corps of Engineers, who maintains that sand trap groin that we all of us locals refer to as the jetty. That is leaking. That's why there was sand at Corpus Point. The Army Corps is going to tighten that sand trap groin, and they realized if they did that, that it would starve the sand with the houses on it. So potential project to stabilize that shoreline. We got through a process with the Army Corps and their Continuing Authorities program to come up with a conceptual plan for some breakwaters and groin to trap some of the sand on the area. We're moving forward with planning with Florida Department of Emergency Management grant. We don't have funding for construction, but it's in the $10 to $20 million range. So early 2026, there will be discussions in earnest about how to fund that project. That's really all of the new information outside of Summer Haven. So just very quickly, this is something that we've been putting together to help bring people up to speed. I'm sure many of you are aware of the different neighborhoods in the area. We've laid them out here on this map. A lot of different areas are affected by the inlet, which entraps sand, so there is erosion to either end of it. The southern section, there are some revetments in the north and in the south that we know have severely impacted this section of beach for many years. To the point where in 1960, the DOT was preparing to move A1A. So they have done that. The county took deed to the right-of-way of the road in 1979, and there has been lots of work in that area to try to come up with some kind of solution to the property owners that still have properties there. One of the items that complicates it is this is part, I'd say, coastal barrier resource system, as outlined in the Coastal Barrier Resource Act, which prohibits the expenditure of federal dollars on any project that could increase development in that area, in that particular system. So the Army Corps cannot invest in that area directly. So we've kind of been stuck in a way. A little further back in history, that area of the beach is roughly where that Pinion Inlet was. It moves just like the current Matanzas Inlet. So that Summer Haven Beach breaches through into Summer Haven River repeatedly. This is in 2010. This was where the flowing river, and can you see my pointer on that side? Yes, thank you. This is where there was a flowing river. It washed through. This is the bridge over in this direction to go to Anastasia Island. Breached through just south of revetment, filled the river with sand. And I believe this group was involved with FIND and the state of Florida to dredge that river out. While your project was underway, the Matthew breached it. We had additional overwashes, breaches during Dorian. The county was able to put a dune in that area, funded by FEMA. We had requested money to repair the road. There was a paved road that went roughly half the distance of where the houses are. It was destroyed. FEMA said that they could not fund repairing that road due to the same reasons that the Army Corps could not participate. But they did allow us an alternate project of a larger vegetated dune. We placed over 100,000 cubic yards of sand. I believe it was roughly 17 cubic yards of sand per linear foot. And it washed away within 30 days of placement. So we had another breach. So the county has looked at what have we done in this area. This is a rough, this is known sand placement. Back to 1992, 3.8 million cubic yards of sand. And this area, you'll see FIND USACE on this list. So this beach is a location for the beneficial disposal of dredge material from the intracoastal waterway. They did that project again just recently, 23-24. This is the bridge over the Summer Haven River. They run a pipe out, blow the sand on the beach. Several storms during this project. I believe it went on for about 6 months with the stops and starts. Over 500,000 cubic yards of sand brings us over 4 million. And we can see it, you know, it had some effect, but it very quickly moves. It's by definition sand that was fine enough that it could wash into the intracoastal waterway. So it's not the optimum material for stabilizing that beach. The area is a substantial amount of work with the University of Florida. The county has done several studies, the DEP, the Park Service. Fort Matanzas is right up in this area, critical federal facility. So we, you know, talked to the board back after that storm wiped out our FEMA berm, and we were directed to go forward and look at, can we open the Summer Haven River? So we had Interreg come up with a report of some possible projects that could stabilize the Summer Haven River and their costs, and discussions about their permittability. We also, Summer House is that large condo facility to the north of the inlet. They have serious erosion around that Matanzas ramp, and so they wanted to be added in. The board directed us to do so. And then we have the results of a series of projects, and I'm not going to go through all of the details here, that some of these slides are from our consultant. But basically, we could put sand on the beach, do a larger beach nourishment type project, like a fortified dune, a seawall along the eastern bank of the Summer Haven River. There's a do nothing option, and a part of that intertwined is purchasing properties for those who do not wish to remain in that area. So just some images, what we're talking about. Here's the revetment to the north in this area, around the R200 mark. And this is where the Summer Haven River bed, and this is where the breaches, the latest breaches have been occurring. So this brings us a few lots into that area past the breach area. Very large beach nourishment project, 1.5 million cubic yards initially, 750,000 every 5 years. It's a very large project. As far as any kind of structural work, we really can't permit putting structures out there until we have a beach project that shows that it is not functioning up to design and could benefit from additional structures. So they've looked at, after monitoring the project, if it's not working out, there's a possibility of adding some breakwaters, some T-groins, there are additional expenses down the road. The managed retreat, we were directed by the board to look into the possibility of managed retreat. So we talked about it a little bit in the report. We did not appraise all of the properties. They're obviously worth more than what the county property appraiser has been listed at. But we were able to secure a grant from the legislature, $5 million. It has a matching requirement, and the county is looking for additional dollars right now to buy out some of the properties. And we have a few willing seller letters. So we see in this map, the green is all county property that we purchased in the past. There was that beautiful dune there for a while, a few county lots. So this basically connects everything from the breach north. And it's a completely voluntary program. So conceptual costs in millions, we're looking 60 million, 121 million over 50 years for the two constructible type projects.
What is that exactly for, though, those conceptual costs?
So this is the seawall.
The seawall around the river, at the inlet?
This seawall. So it's on the eastern bank of the river.
Okay, so this is part of dredging out, this is going to be part of that, the new river plan?
Yes, it is an option for that. We've not been directed to execute any of these plans.
Okay.
So basically, from the ocean side, as the ocean storms breach across, they roll over this beach into the river. This could help prevent that from happening. It does not prevent the beach from taking damage or the houses on the beach from taking damage. And as sand washed out from a wall, it would need to be replenished. None of these, as we all know, we all work with water. None of these are perfect solutions. There are no perfect solutions.
Can I just ask a question about conceptual costs? I see that there's a no action alternative that's showing no cost whatsoever, but that can't be right? I mean, not doing anything is going to cause additional erosion potentially. That will have future impacts on that area that's going to end up costing the county something, right? Are they just not taking that into account? Is that not part of their decision making right now, or?
It was, yes, we're not looking at, future damages to the private properties and loss of tax revenue, that type of thing. It's really cost to the board, if the board decided to do a project. And the group with us, Summer Haven, Friends of Summer Haven, rightfully pointed out to the board, just as you said, you know, there are some costs. So it leads me to the next, we're gonna skip Summer House for a minute, just to say, that we've been asked to do a complimentary study on the economic effects of the do nothing. So what is that actual cost? That's well underway. There's been some survey work. They have gathered what data they can find. Balmoral is the group that's working on it. Before, they're in the process now of examining all of the data that they have and weeding through it and determining how it is appropriate to put it together and come up with the estimate.
Sorry for screwing up the order of your presentation.
No, that was perfect. That was, it was almost like we planned that. This is Summer House.
I'm sorry, Tom, did you have?
No, it's not, I just wanted to flip back to that picture. What's that, concrete, is that a concrete wall there?
This is the Matilda's ramp.
Oh, okay.
So this is where they're standing on the boat ramp, looking towards the north, the beach to the north.
Is that the Summer House condominium?
This is. And this sand that's a little bit yellower than this sand is the sand that the county placed in a FEMA berm.
But that's 2022, right? That's not what it looks like right now, is it?
It's fairly similar. There has been some recovery. So we see there's a little more sand along the toe here, some volunteer vegetation, but there are times when the water is coming up very
It
high.
hasn't been re-nourished since that?
No, it has not.
Wow, okay.
So that was a category B FEMA berm, which we have a short slide on the FEMA beach projects. Basically, if you had protection from a 5-year storm in front of your house, after a storm you did not, it is possible for us to put up to 6 cubic yards in front of the house to have a short-term defense against erosion. It's not a permanent fix, it's not a renourishment, it doesn't fix the beach, it gives temporary protection. So we were able to do this in that area. You can't put those back once they wash away. You
So
have to
the
do
idea
it.
would be that it would be a short-term fix, but it would be incumbent on the property owner to make a longer-term fix at their own cost. Is that how that works?
That is one of the possibilities, unless the county or someone does a larger scale beach nourishment
Do you
project.
have any feedback from the condominium, Summer House Condominium Association?
Yes, we have been working with them throughout this process. There were some public meetings that involved them to come up with these options. These are the privately funded solutions, basically a seawall, which they were aware, you know, it's very difficult to qualify for a seawall. You have to show the individual building is under an imminent threat due to the erosive nature of having seawalls on the beaches. So this southern building or two may qualify, but it would be, the beach would have to get worse before this option really worked for them. And as we see with a dune nourishment project, any kind of beach project, as we know, the length of the project is one of the most important characteristics for its durability. So when we have a very short section of beach, I believe that's about half a mile, it doesn't function very well. So it would have a very high cost as far as the maintenance, have to be done repeatedly, every 5 years. So actions the county has consistently, we've made 4 annual requests so far to the Army Corps of Engineers to initiate a feasibility study in that section. We have had them study almost all of the north beaches. There's an Army Corps project in place in the Bolano South Ponte Beach area. There's one that we know of here in St. Augustine Beach. So from that St. Augustine Beach project down to the inlet, we'd like them to look at that section of beach and study it and see if there is a project. Right now, there's those beautiful dunes there that we see, but it's also one of the most erosive places in the county, is that sand is going away very quickly. It's the finer sand. So we've the board has stated in those letters that we would be willing to participate financially in a feasibility study that could come up with a beach project. They have not initiated that. The other thing that was recommended as a possible action, which the county is considering, is to look at an inlet management plan for the Matanzas Inlet. Right now, nobody maintains it. It's a natural inlet, other than the structures and the bridge across it. It entraps sand. There would be the possibility of bypassing a small amount of sand onto the adjacent beaches as needed. But it would entail cutting a channel, and somebody would need to maintain that channel. Currently, the Board of County Commissioners, they don't maintain any waterways. We have some boat ramps, that type of thing. So it's, for our board, it's kind of a new territory, this type of thing. But we've been collecting some of the necessary data to come up with an inlet management plan, and we're going to more formally, it's being placed in the budget for consideration by our board, rather to go with a full formal plan. And then as part of that, we'd have to determine, what entity would be managing that waterway.
Good question. Have any of the really threatened homes to the south offered to sell their property to the county?
There are a couple that have shown an interest in it, at least to hear what the county can do. The county, generally with these grant programs and in general, just our own internal rules, is that we're allowed to pay appraised value unless there's special consideration by the board. And a lot of the properties there have been selling for very high numbers. Within the breach, I believe that those properties, we had them appraised recently, and they're each over $1 million. So it's hard to stretch the funding that we have in this whole area. So, inlet management plan considerations. If we did do that, there is an additional benefit as far as what our coastal engineers are saying, is that right now there's serious erosion along the eastern shore of Rattlesnake Island, and particularly the northern shore of Barataria, the subdivision here on the northern end of the Summer Haven Island area, where the channel has been, as water likes to do, follow along the outside of the course, and it is undermining that revetment along the shore there, very deep. We looked at this discussion, and that, opening the river may have a positive effect on that. Our consultants weren't able to show a great deal of change with that, but they did say that cutting this inlet to the north would virtually eliminate that erosion. If we could get the water to go on the north and not to that southern section. So that's another consideration for coming up with some kind of inlet management plan. Army Corps of Engineers, basically the tools that they have consist of a project. We constantly have people say, well, we heard you got money from the Army Corps. Can you use that money on this? Can we use it this way? The Army Corps has never given us money. They always do projects where they hire the contractors and we function as the local sponsors and we pay for part of the project. In order to approve that, they have to go through a feasibility study, new internal rules with the Corps regarding it's a 3-3-3 project. It's going to cost $3 million over 3 years and will fit in a 3-inch binder. Just straight to the point. So we continue to ask for this type of feasibility study. This area, Summer Haven, has been studied in the past. But anyway, it's an involved process and involves an integrated environmental assessment to basically come up with what we know is a permitted project that could then be considered for funding through Congress. So what comes out of a feasibility study is a chief's report, which is basically the Jacksonville district, the chief engineer says, I can recommend this plan. And so they put that in their work plan. It can be suggested to Congress as part of the Water Development and Resource Acts as they go through. And then they have to be authorized and funded by Congress. So you can go through the feasibility study, it takes 3 years, it may take a couple of years to get funding through Congress, could happen immediately. We've seen it happen both ways. This kind of just shows, this is an actual Army Corps slide, when they come to talk to you about beach projects, where they talk about the public access. And when you sit with it a little while, it's not anywhere near as bad as it looks, but basically this talks about the need for public interest. Is that someone, a taxpayer from Idaho, should be able to come to the beach that was funded through federal dollars, park within a quarter mile of that beach and be able to enjoy the fruits of their taxes. So basically, in the Optimum Army Corps project has a parking lot, and it's strictly parking every half mile along the beach. So there would need to be work done to come up with some kind of adequate access in that area. So they did work on a feasibility study. This was before the 3-year program. You can see there were 13 years, and I believe they started on it before that on a soft start. But basically, they looked at this at the same time, and this was before my time, so I'm a little shaky on the absolute details. But they studied South Ponte Vedra and Volano and Summerhaven in the same report. They found that it's in a Kroger zone. It is geographically limited. There's not a tremendous amount of access. Basically, they consulted with the county and said, look, you have this other area. We saw that Hurricane Matthew, you have these pictures on the news of the homes falling into the ocean. We think you have a project there, but we don't see one in Summerhaven. So if you want to move forward with the north, you probably are going to want to let go of the Summerhaven. So,
And then that had a lot to do with, it sounds like, the public access. We can't get those federal project dollars without the public access.
it was, so public interest is one of the
Well,
links.
when you say public interest, they can't be interested if they can't park at
That's
the
right.
beach.
Yes, very true.
Right.
The other one that was a problem is the cost-benefit analysis. Since there is that one string of houses there, it's hard to show, and basically what they have to show is, here's what we think is going to happen to the property over 50 years if we do nothing. All these storms that we have observed over the past 50 years, we have computer models that throw them at them in different directions and all of that. These are the damages that we think this area is going to see in 50 years. And then they have a series of projects, and if we put this project on top, it will reduce the damage over the 50 years by X amount. So if the project cost is higher than that amount of saved damages over 50 years, then it has a negative cost benefit. And that's where we were looking at with Summerhaven. Problems with access, and they just couldn't find a project that would work, that would be cheap enough to represent a benefit over the damages they expected to see. FEMA. FEMA does not build beaches. FEMA does not give money for, coming up with fixing problems that have been there a while. They fix storm damages. So as we talked about with the category B, you used to have protection, now there's an immediate threat of flooding. So this is like you can, put up barricades over, areas of road that are damaged and all these different activities during storms to protect the public. This is a protection measure. It's supposed to be quick, discreet, small. The other thing is when you have a park or recreation facility that has been damaged, they can help to cost share in a project to repair that damaged thing. So this is an engineered beach, which we do not have in Summerhaven. Having a category B project where the dune that we put is not an engineered beach. An engineered beach is when we put imported sand on a beach according to a planned and permitted design, and it has a maintenance program, and we adhere to that maintenance program. At that point, they look at how much sand did you lose, how much of it is still in the system within a quarter mile of the beach or so. and they can cost share on that net amount that was lost. We don't have anything like that yet in Summer Haven. If there was a county beach project, like we just did in Ponte Vedra, then that's something that they could help with in the future, but we really don't have any opportunities from FEMA at the time. There was a very small section of beach that did have some properties towards that southern area of the map that we looked at, but we have to have cost reasonableness. So in order to mobilize a contractor and put like dunes along 3 or 4 properties is not cost reasonable. The permitting and the mobilization
These
is
are only
needs
3
it
or 4
all.
properties, there's like 19 properties in South Summer Haven.
So these are ones where when they looked at the topography before the storm, there was a dune. This is the house, and it had a dune. The dune was flattened. So they can say, we used to have a dune, we can help you put some of that dune back. But most of them, they had no dune. They had no real dune before the storm. So it's limited. It's, when it does help you, it helps, but it's very hard to, I think, by design to fit in that box. And that's really the information that I have. Sorry it took so long, but glad to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Damon, do you know how many public lots we've actually bought for recreation down there in South Summer Haven? That have the exact handful.
I want to say it's 14,
Oh, really?
but I'm guessing.
Okay, so the county's already bought 4, those are just lots.
Yes.
That could be beach for people to enjoy or what have you.
Yes, they are open to the public. There's no,
You still have no way to get to
good
it.
access, yeah.
Right. Is there any plan at all for the BOCC to give us some public access to South Summer Haven?
I've not seen a plan for it
Okay.
yet. I know the status of the river does complicate things because right now people are walking across the river. So if we dig out the river, we lose that ability. But yeah.
Good. Any other questions for Mr. Douglas here? Thank you very much. That was very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is lawsuit. Mr. Meade?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe all the commissioners have been advised of the fact that Commissioner Flowers has filed a lawsuit. It was filed on February 18. The filing fee associated with that was ultimately paid on February 21. It relates to allegations regarding public records requests and responses thereto. That is the current status as far as the docket goes. One general question or feedback I was interested in getting from the commission is there are a variety of potential law firms that could be retained because at some point in the process I am likely to be a witness and you cannot be a witness and an advocate at the same time. Of the law firms I would be interested in retaining to deal with this when the time is right. One has particular experience both with public records law requests and with the opposing party being a member of a governmental entity, an extra layer of experience, so to speak. That law firm is, it's not Miami, but it's further away than, say, Jacksonville would be. In current litigation, most circuit court matters are primarily done by Zoom anymore rather than live appearances, which makes the distance somewhat mitigated, not as big of an issue. But to the extent there are any live appearances, obviously there would be higher costs for an attorney coming from counties away as opposed to coming down from New Hall. Beyond that, there are at least 2 or 3 firms in Jacksonville that would be very good and very capable of dealing with this, but I do not know that they have the first-hand experience dealing with the extra wrinkle we have here, so to speak. I've not contacted any of them directly because I want to get feedback from the commission as to their thoughts on this. I do not anticipate that any of their respective hourly rates would be significantly different than the others. But again, to the extent one firm is more remote than the others, I would expect there to be some additional cost in that. I don't believe there would be a significant difference as far as familiarity with dealing with the local system or court rules. They're fairly uniform at this point in time throughout the state. So I don't think there's a big difference between Jacksonville versus a different county. But those are just the general concepts and just getting feedback from the commission as to where they would like me to make my initial inquiries as far as lining up the council to take over this matter when the time is appropriate. And that's it.
My instinct would be to have you go ahead and develop a list for us and share it with us, maybe with some brief thoughts on what you see as the advantages and disadvantages of the respective firms.
Okay. Do I have permission to go ahead and reach out to the firms and make sure that they would be interested in doing so before I put them on the list for the commission to consider?
Absolutely.
Before you do that, if you don't mind, according to the Inspector General over the Department of Economic Opportunity, this is where we lie. If we sue or get sued, we must inform the state. The state may come in and help us, or they decide not to. They may advise you to hire a lawyer. But according to the Inspector General, we must inform the state that we have been sued. And to save us a lot of money.
Any other action that is needed on that, Mr. Bing?
No, sir. Thank you for your guidance.
Great. Next on the agenda is sunshine law violations.
Yes, on that one, I know the general sunshine concept has been discussed for a long time, but obviously we have a new member, a new commissioner, so I'll give a little bit more detail than I normally would.
Yes, sir. I would like to let Mr. Meek come to the podium. Some of us will hard of hearing.
Sure.
Happy to do so. I apologize for not thinking of that earlier.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So yes, as a brief review, in general concepts, sunshine law encompasses a lot of different things, but germane to today's purposes, it is highly frowned upon for commissioners to communicate amongst themselves outside of a publicly noticed and meeting where the public can see what is being discussed, what is being thought. There is a 4-hour requirement as far as training. I did a memo on that in the last few months. I will recirculate that to all commissioners following this meeting that gives an outline where you can get the full, if you're having trouble sleeping one night, you can see the full 4 hours of the entire public records issue. But for today's purposes, the real issue comes down to Commissioner Flowers circulating an email among commissioners and whether or not that is appropriate or inappropriate as far as violating sunshine. A commissioner is allowed to share information that is purely of an informative nature. If you're simply, if you see a great study that comes out of the Army Corps of Engineers on oceanography, currents, whatever, this is awesome stuff right in our wheelhouse. We don't have anything immediately coming up that we're going to be dealing with it. That's fine. That's information that's okay to circulate. It would be best if that comes up to forward that to Elise to then be circulated to the commissioners. Because even in that situation, if it's purely informative, the moment if any other commissioner inadvertently responds, even as innocently as, hey, this is great information, that makes it a sunshine violation, arguably under the applicable authorities. So if it's purely informational, you're okay on the front end, but if there's any interaction between commissioners, it can be by email, it can be text message, it can be verbal, whatever it is, if it's outside of a publicly noticed meeting, that interaction creates a potential violation. Beyond that, to the extent there is any communication between commissioners that deals with something that is reasonably foreseeable to be dealt with as part of the commission's normal business coming up, or something that one commissioner is urging the other commissioners to do or agree on, whether there's a reply to it or not, the applicable Attorney General's opinions would indicate that is inappropriate. To say, hey, we need to do this, is not something that should be done outside of a regular noticed public commission meeting. And just to clear that up, because even if one commissioner does it, it is part of a commission, I do need to publicly read in an email that was sent by Commissioner Flowers on February 18 at 4:14 p.m. indicating, I received this email from Elise today, period. Please note that it mentions a personal email which is not listed on the court website, period. This has caused tremendous confusion, to say the very least, and has left the court liable for any non-response that may occur, period. Please refer to a screenshot of our website. I have included here, period. We must look into this immediately and fix it now, period. I have received very late responses on this email account, so it must get checked occasionally, period. It is in fact our official email, and it is in fact working, period. How bad is this, question mark? Government that can't be reached, exclamation point. I have requested and will repeat again that I expect a response to every single email that I have sent to the email address or the port of one of the email addresses, address, period. This is not hard, and the law requires us to act, period. That's the end of the email. The concerning indications within there are, one, we must look into this immediately and fix it now. To a reasonable person would say this is something that one commissioner is asking the entire commission to do or act upon. It also indicates within its body that the one commissioner is expecting a response to every single email. And finally, the last sentence of the email indicates this is not hard and the law requires us to act, which could lead a reasonable person for that sentence as well to say that one commissioner is asking the entire commission to take some certain action. I've read it in, so now it is not outside of the public eye. This is now communication that has been pulled back in. It's arguably not a violation of the Sunshine Law because it's now been made public, and to my knowledge, the commission has not acted in any way upon this. And to my knowledge, I do not believe any commissioner has responded to this, which is the appropriate thing to do, and please keep doing that if it ever comes up again in the future. The only other comments I would offer on it are that the majority of authorities that deal with the Sunshine Law and public records are Attorney General's opinions and a very small number of ethical opinions. Those are highly persuasive authorities, but as far as legal authorities go, they are technically non-binding. The Attorney General, while a very learned person and someone to be respected because of the office they hold and the experience they have, is in fact no different than any other lawyer. It is an opinion of a lawyer, not an opinion of a court. So we have Attorney General opinions that guide us in what the Attorney General thinks a court would do, and that's what most of these comments are based upon, but all of it is ultimately subject to whatever a court would do. So just circling back very quickly, rehashing, I'll certainly take any questions, but I will follow up with the email that gives the full 4-hour presentation that every commissioner should be going through once a year anyway. It gives a very in-depth going into all of this. Second, it is okay for a commissioner to circulate an email that is purely informational. It is, according to the Attorney General opinions, it is extremely improper to respond to that email in any way. It is the reply even to an informational email that can become a problem. There also, if one commissioner gives a purely informational position and another commissioner doesn't directly reply to that but gives an informational opinion that appears to contradict that, at that point I think the Attorney General can say you're getting into difficult waters because you appear to be debating something, even though you're not overtly debating it. The by far best practice is if a commissioner wishes to share something with the other commissioners that is purely informational, forward it to Elise. It can be added onto the agenda and discussed at that point. Any communication that happens here is not a violation of the Sunshine Law. And then last, it's closed, and I'll certainly take any questions. If any commissioner is ever curious, unsure, where does this stand, you have my contact information. I am happy to answer any questions. Is this okay? Is this not okay? And other than that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
I have a comment to make it very clear for the record. I never, ever asked for a response from any commissioners here. That was directed to Elise, and I will say it again. I expect a response to every one of my emails. I don't email them, let me finish, except as a copy. I have never addressed them personally. When I first started this, I always put, do not respond across the top, and we're supposed to know not to respond. If I don't here, and now we're a month behind. Even Mr. Rivers asked me to stop doing that, and I did. So when I get work, I get emails, and the position of what was going on that website was not an item that had to be put on the agenda. We had already voted to have the website, we've already voted to have the server, we simply weren't doing something correct that we had already voted on. That simply needed to be fixed. So make it clear for the record, I never ever asked one of these commissioners to respond to me, just fix it. And I'll say again, I've got all these emails, tons of them I've got a response to. So what's going on? Almost every meeting I've been in here, I'm missing emails or responses. And I'm gonna show you all the deliveries before I leave today.
Just to be clear for the audio, to make sure this isn't sunshine, the email which I quoted and read into the audio earlier was sent by Commissioner Flowers. The two line on the email is not a CC, it is directly sent to each of the, to Matt at staugustine.com, Tom at staugustine.com, and Nicholas at staugustine.com. It is not a copy. Ms. Flowers, I allowed you to complete your comment without interruption. I expect the same. It was not a CC, it was directly sent to.
Again, it was not an item that had to be protected under the sunshine law, as if we were spending money. You can pretend like it was. By the way, Louise, did you send each one a copy of the Attorney General's report about commissioners sharing emails? Okay, because she right there, it is very, very legal for me to send them any email about anything, even things we're going to talk about, as long as I do not express my feelings, and it's an object. Did you send that?
I forward everything to all the commissioners. It's on the emails.
It was because once again, he just got a suit over the sunshine law, and he's now giving us advice. Did you make sure you got that to each one of them? Because
Well, I'll go back and look. I can't remember every email. Okay, the other thing is,
Attorney General's opinion, because he is contradicting.
okay, the other thing was the server business. We discussed that a long time ago.
That's not what we're discussing.
Okay.
And just in brief response to that, I am the general counsel for the Court District. I serve at the pleasure of the commission. I am one lawyer. This is one lawyer's opinion. Any commissioner is free to use their own judgment as to what opinion they think is the correct one to follow, based upon everything a normal person would do in evaluating someone, giving the opinion as far as their education, experience, background, and overall demeanor and temperament and past experiences. And that is what I would encourage each commissioner to do in deciding how they wish to proceed. Any other questions or comments, I'd be happy to address.
None. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you. And again, I'm sorry, I'll make sure I do this in the future. Thank you, sir.
That brings us to public comment. Anyone? Linda?
Linda Gideon, resident of Summer Haven River, 9251 in Johnson Road. I just had a couple of follow-up things about what Damon talked about earlier, and an invitation to you. If you've not seen the new seawall at the north end of Summer Haven, you need to go see it. It is amazing. I don't know if any of you guys have been following the video. Okay. Well, they just completed or are completing the seawall in front of the rock revetment that's at the north end of the river. You all have been down there. By the way, we invite you to come down and take a tour of Summer Haven, and welcome to the board. So we would love to see you down there looking at the seawall. It's got a sidewalk. They've put in new drainage, a new road. We would love to see that go all the way to Marineland. But anyhow, so one comment that David made, we talked about the properties at the south, the properties all along the beach. But a seawall or some sort of barrier would protect not only properties, but the Summer Haven River, which has wonderful recreational and environmental value. It protects A1A, which we have washovers at A1A all the time. And there's a new path, I don't know if you're aware, DOT is putting in for trails. It's $12 million. It runs from Marineland to Matanzas Inlet. It's a bike path, and there's no protection for it. So in addition to the river and A1A and properties, a seawall would protect the trail as well, a $12 million investment that's due to start next year. As far as the erosion at Barataria, they did some modeling on that. I'm sorry that Taylor is not here, but the people who live on the south Matanzas Inlet where Barataria is have said that when the river was open and flowing, there was enough steering current coming out of the river to push back the current from Fort Matanzas, and therefore it did protect their properties and the erosion that they were seeing. And almost without, all the property owners, maybe one or two, have seen this phenomenon, and they just say if you open the river, it's going to help protect our properties. And it's, like I said, modeling by an engineering firm is one thing, but the people who are there every day and see it, that anecdotal evidence should be considered as well. And finally, we talked about Army Corps and parking and bicycles and public access, and the Friends have contracted with an engineering firm to come up with a conceptual drawing of what Summerhaven could be and all the access it could provide in the parks and recreation and so forth. And as soon as that's ready, I would love to come in and show it to you.
Is that the, one thing, Ms. Linda, you know, that study, the engineering study in Barataria Island indicated that that was not, that the closing of the river was not causing that.
And they said it was an 8% effect. Taylor Engineering had done some work on it previously, and they said 10 to 11% effect on the flow. But we've also talked to another engineer who says, well, you know, maybe in modeling 11% doesn't sound like much, but when you're dealing with millions of gallons, then, you know, it does make a difference. And the people who live there are the ones whose properties are being undermined. And they said, hey, when that river's flowing, we see a huge difference.
Have they done anything privately to protect Barataria at this point?
Oh, they're putting, yeah, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of rocks that they keep replacing.
That road and that project at North Summerhaven is spectacular.
Oh, you've seen it?
It is amazing. Are they all down now? I call it a new city in the sky. I take that long coat coat.
Well, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Excuse me.
One heck of a project.
And also, another thing, just to be aware is, the county is requesting or planning to make, thank you, a seawall or hardening of the shoreline just north of Marineland in St. Johns County, for a dune that continues to wash out there that's along the same dune system. So you're going to have a seawall here, and then a whole unprotected area, and then another seawall at the end. And what we envision, and also, we do not expect St. Johns County to pay for this. We do not expect the Port Authority to pay for this. This being the seawall would be something that would be a regional, we need the federal government, the state. It's going to be a partnership. And that is the thing that we think would work best at Summerhaven to protect everything.
You know, between those two gaps, you know what's going to happen there.
Oh, yes, we do.
So, I mean, is there some talk or something about, because then you put that, say you finish the river, and you have the wall, and I assume on the other side of the wall would have to, you got, you know, the wall can't stand by, we've got to do something in front of the wall, right? To protect the wall.
I don't know what you mean.
If you're going to put the wall along the riverside, then on the east, and then so between, you've got a wall, then you've got beach, and the ocean. According to Jason, if we just put up a seawall along that, it's just going to get eaten out. So what are they going to put up to protect the wall?
I don't know why it would be eaten out. I'd have to
just go into the, you know, just the 90-degree things that, you know, has to have some kind of slant, some kind of planing out, or the wall will just like wasn't going to be, they put it around the houses. It'll destroy the houses next to it.
Well, all I know is the seawall that's at the north right now that they're completing that you said you've seen.
Is that the kind of wall you're talking about?
Well, that would be lovely, but we don't know. And even in the conceptual drawing, we have different things that are in there and different things you can take You know, it's just basically a concept. It would depend, of course, on permitting and funding and all of those things, but of all those things that are listed, the Friends of Summer Haven River, would prefer a seawall. We don't think putting sand, you guys have been with us, putting sand on the beach, you know, it's just a very volatile area, so we need something permanent. And it's not to protect just properties or just the river. A1A is threatened, and this new trail that they're putting in, you know, 12 million, hate to see that go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Any other public comment? No? Commissioner comments? Commissioner Bender?
I have a few. We were moved on too quick, I think, in terms of the bond. The Secretary Treasurer asked a question relative to the need for individual bonds for commissioners. What is the group level of protection right now for the limit of coverage? And what would a new individual bond provide in addition?
I will get with the insurance company to find out how much more in addition it's gonna cover. I didn't ask that question.
I think we need
Yes,
that
I
comparison
will
to see
talk to them.
exactly what it is right now
Yeah.
and what the addition would be.
Right.
Thank you. Second question, we talked months ago about the Chevrolet property, and there was a concern from Ms. Flowers relative to the park arena set up where the trees may be coming down. Should we have somebody from the county parks that could update us as to the status of that?
Yeah, Commissioner Bender, I will,
And also, we had talked about channel markers out in that area, where they're designing areas for channel markers to protect that marina.
yes, they have a pretty nice, a very slick presentation that they've got drawn up. I will have them send that to all of us. I actually thought that I told them to send that to all of us, but I'll have the county Parks and Rec send us the current Genvar study, the kind of engineering mock-up, and then obviously they can answer any specific questions you have about tree cover or anything else.
And my third point right now is Taylor Engineering. They were here last month. They were not here for the months before that. When questions come up in terms of their engineering expertise, we were in an awkward situation of not having anybody present in Taylor Engineering.
Yeah, I believe actually much like County Parks and Rec, they've elected to stop sending a representative to each meeting because they were tired of being used by a particular commissioner. So they will now come on an as-needed basis or an as-requested basis. If you have a specific question about a specific engineering issue, you can either request them to come to a meeting or just get in touch with them directly.
So basically what you're saying is they're not here at a meeting, so if we have a question, we have to wait for the next meeting.
No, you can email them immediately after the meeting. They're not sending
Well,
them.
under the sunshine, we should be communicating directly and together and not individually with the engineering firm, especially if we have to do, say, the city comes in and says we need to replace some more channel markers and return to the engineering firm, and the engineering firm is not here. So to give them direction and move ahead, we would have to wait for another month and then to be here.
Well, if I think that what has been contemplated is that anytime we're being asked for something that Taylor would need to weigh in on, then they will send representatives to that meeting. We should have that information long enough in advance that they can send someone.
So they were based on the proposed agenda for the meeting, right, when they would come.
Right. Good. Tom, any comments?
Police, were we paying Taylor Engineering anything to come to our meetings, or did they just come on their own volition?
No, they didn't come on their own. No, we were paying them to come to the meeting.
Was there a certain amount for each meeting?
Yeah, it was, let me see. I think I may have a bill here. I actually happen to have it. Yeah, it's 3 hours, it's $328.
I agree that there's an advantage just to have them here at every meeting. And I am appalled at the way Sandy Flowers acts at this meeting, or I'm appalled at the way she has caused Ted Visionary not to want to come. So I would like to say that, Sandy, I wish you would control yourself at our meetings. I wish you would control yourself at our
Taylor
meetings.
Engineering was offended because I asked how much we were paying them to not come to the
It's
meeting.
my turn to talk. You'll have to shut in just a minute. Just clean up your act.
That's your opinion. I'm doing my job.
No comments from me, Commissioner Kirkland?
I'm honored to serve with you. Very interesting first meeting.
Any idea what you're getting yourself into?
You got that on before 60 days from your appointment, though.
Commissioner Flowers, any
Yeah,
comments?
I'd like to talk about, I'd like to make a comment that our attorney has not been having to sign a contract to work for us. And if you are going to be in Florida and dealing with contracts that are over 500 or over 1 year, you need that, and he doesn't have it. Can we get that? Because there is a contract, but like so many things I've seen in this commission, they don't sign them, just like the, I get inspection reports that are not signed. I'm sorry that people feel abused when I ask them questions like that. But, yeah, we need to sign a contract. He is not even legally working for us right now.
Okay, great. Well, there being no, yep, I'm sorry.
I have something. So, regarding the port's emails, I will send over, I've done this before, years ago, where you can get into the port's emails with a code and with a password, and this is, but I've changed it because everybody's changed here, so I got rid of it. So I will send everybody an email, and I will tell you where to go, which will be a Gmail account, to go into Gmail, and I will give you the password. It will not let you in until you get a code from me. So I will know who's going in regardless. It doesn't matter, but it's a special kind of Gmail account where I'll get where it'll ask you for a code, and then you need to text me. If everybody has my phone number, you would need to text me and say, I need the code. That's all I need, and I will send you the code because it comes right on my phone, and then you go in and have at it. However, the thing is, with these emails, they can't be manipulated as far as words on the email. You can't pull up the email and then change what's on the email. You can't do that. However, if you accidentally delete one, I have a backup of every single one of them. I have all of those emails. So if something gets deleted, I still have them all. So I have a separate file.
You don't have our lawyer's email. All of his stuff is in his private server.
No, it's not in a private server.
You have all of Clay Meek's emails.
You're going to have them all. Okay. You're going to have all those emails.
From yahoo.com server. That's what's on the port website. So how would this work be in there?
I'm going to change the port website because the emails are all supposed to just come straight to me. All the port emails. So you're going to so you can, like, if you want to look at Clay stuff, you can go into search. You know how to use an email. You go into search, you put up his name, and everything will pop up, including all his invoices, everything. So you can see it all. You don't need.
How about PowerPoints?
We don't have. He never had.
PowerPoint. He promised to give me last name.
We didn't have. I don't have a PowerPoint. Did you ever have a PowerPoint?
It's in his server. He just won't give it to me.
Anything that has been sent to the Port District or to any commissioner has been copied to Elise. Anything that has been dealt with by the port will have an email, paper trail, electronic trail.
And just so you know, there are over 3,000 emails in there. So, you might want to do a search by whatever it is you're specifically looking for. Otherwise, you'll go crazy.
Could we test the emails before I go today? Because just so you know, I also sent 2 emails in December to ask him what the procedure was on getting the public service bonds, and I got no response from that.
Are you talking public service.
I sent 2 emails because he was fussing. I actually sent 2 emails before I went and got my bond. What do I do? What's your current procedure? What are y'all doing for the public? Nothing. So I got arrested delivery, so let's test. while we're sitting there.
This is just for the port, not for me.
No, this is just for the port. That's why I send everything to the port.
Well, what I'll do is after the meeting, we'll test it, because I don't want to give the password out. You know, I want this password is for the port.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just for the port commissioners.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kirker, did you have one more comment? Go
I
ahead.
did, I'm a little confused on this bond. I don't understand it is that as a commission, we have a bond.
I'm going to get that straightened out. When I go back this week and I call our people who have the blanket bond for everybody, for the commissioner's bond, and I will get it, you know, I will get all the information.
Could you send her a copy of our charter so she can read exactly what's required, so she doesn't get in trouble and do something wrong?
Sure.
Well, I would like to see that, but having had a little bit of experience with bonds, they're almost like an antiquated concept. And a lot of documents that organizations are covered by call for these bonds, and then you go to the insurance company, and they don't even write them anymore.
I can explain that, actually. I spoke to the Inspector General and asked the same question. They come here to want the answer, that's all.
Okay, but it seems like there should be someone at the state level, I don't know who created our governmental document that could give us clarity, because it seems redundant and very expensive to have 5 extra bonds when we're really covered.
Well, I'm gonna call the insurance company, and I'm gonna get her to send me an actual letter stating exactly how they cover and what the bonds are for if we indeed have to have the bond, which according to the charters, those charters were written to, let's see.
This was 2020, it was reenacted.
Oh, okay. So I will do the research. I will take care of it and go through and speak, because we have 2 insurance companies. I believe this is our crime, one for our crime policy. So I will get with them, and I will have them.
So could we add bond discussion to?
Yes, next meeting.
Please?
Yeah.
And just for the commission, according to the Inspector General, this is why the bonds are important. I thought the same thing. Why have I got to go do this through bond? Here's why. These independent special districts have virtually no oversight. As you can see, with 2020, we voted by 3 times in the last several years. We have raised taxes with a vote by 2 people now.
No, we only did that once, Sandy, because otherwise I would have not been in compliance any other year.
You know, I'll send you the letter from Dennis. He said 2020 we did it too. And let me just finish. According to the
Never
Inspector
got
General,
anything.
This is what they said. They said, Sandy, this is why you need to bond. Almost anybody is bondable. You know who's not bondable? I mean, at a certain price, almost anybody's bondable. But if you're a bank robber, you've been convicted of fraud, things like that, you cannot get a bond. And he explained to me, that's why you're supposed to go get your bond, send it in for reimbursement, because if you're not bondable, that is the one oversight the state has, is you can't serve if you're not bondable, and if you don't go get the bond, how does the state know? And the reason we do it is because it is the law in our charter, and we have to. If you want to change the charter, go to the legislature.
When you got the bond, did they do a background check?
Oh, yeah, I had to turn in my driver's license and my social. That's why you have to do it according to the charter. They told me at the Inspector General, he said, that's why we have you go get them personally, because it's going to be a background check. If you do it as this whole thing, you're just getting a pin. It's not about the money, the $5,000 bond. It's about, are you bondable? Because only the worst people are not, and they cannot serve.
We'll hear all about it at next month's meeting, which will be on April 15th.
Tax day.
Here, that's right, there's meeting over other business, this meeting.